Okay, so now we're on the bookwork, finishing up number 68. So on this one, it crosses at -1, 1, and 2. And so automatically we know it would be based on x plus 1, x minus 1, x minus 2. However, since it went down first, it reflected, so we knew it had to be minus. We knew the y-intercept in the book was -1, and the calculator showed -2, and so it's -0.5 or -0.5, followed by x plus 1, x minus 1, x minus 2. Any questions on that one? Just keep it right there for a moment. All right. Okay, so what we're going to do to start with, to figure this one out, is we're going to put in x plus 1, x minus 1, and x minus 2. And that graph looks like that, but in the book it's showing starting higher. So in the book it's this one where it's starting higher and coming down. So we know we have to flip it. So in order to flip it, we just stick the minus sign there, and that reflects across the x-axis. So now it's closer. When we go to the table, I see a 0, -2, but in the book it's 0, -1. And so that's when I decide on the A value. Am I going to put a 2 in front or a 1/2? So if I put a 2 in front, it's going to go to 4, or actually -4. If you want to be exact. And then if I put a 1/2, like 0.5, then it matches exactly what we want. Okay, very good. So that's why it's a -0.5, x plus 1, x minus 1, x minus 2. Okay, now number 70. Okay, so on 70, the directions say analyze each polynomial using the steps 1 through 8. So we know there's going to be a lot of steps on this one. So it's analyze graph, and it's 8 steps. So for our end behavior, which is the first step, on x times x plus 2 squared. Okay, so let's first type in the function. You remember, if you put the x in front, you ought to either do parentheses around it or use a dot, because otherwise it will give you that error message. X times x plus 2 squared, which is this one. So as far as our end behavior, we look at the coefficient, and in this case it's 1. So for the end behavior, we just get rid of the number, and we say it's x times x squared, which is x cubed. So you could have just circled x cubed right there. X cubed is your answer for the end behavior.
What does that say?
End behavior, look at the coefficient. In this case, there is no coefficient, it's 1. But I'm just trying to remind you all that if you had like a 2 in front, like on some others, you have to put that. Look at your coefficient. I put COEFF for an abbreviation. Yeah, all 8. All 8 steps, because on Math Excel it would probably go A through G, something like that.
11 on all.
Yeah, there were 11 points to it.
Yeah, I looked at it and just said,
Yeah.
I'm going to get a 0.
No. Okay.
Everybody's gonna brush or something like that. I'm kind of bored. Oh, there it goes.
Oh, okay. So that was better. Okay. Morning. Let me pause this for a moment. Okay, so we talked about the end behavior. Now, as far as the x-intercepts, if you wanted the ordered pairs for it, it's 0, 0, and 0, negative 2, which are there. And wait, let me graph this. I thought I had it already. This is negative 2, 0, not 0, negative 2. So that was a flaw. Yeah, that was a mistake right there. Sorry about that. So we should have negative 2, 0 instead. So if those are your ordered pairs, then in the Math Excel, it would want 0 and negative 2. Because they don't want the whole ordered pair, they just want the numbers. Okay? But yeah, that was supposed to be negative 2, 0. Okay, so those are what the real zeros are. The y-intercept is 0, which means the ordered pair is 0, 0. The zeros, again, it's all related. The zeros are negative 2 and 0, but at negative 2, we notice that it touches or bounces, and at 0, it crosses. So you have negative 2 with multiplicity 2, and it touches. And at 0, it's multiplicity 1, and it crosses. Any questions on the first three? Okay. Number 4, it says graph it. I just graphed it on the calculator, so you don't really have to write anything except for graph on the calculator. The next thing is it wanted the turning points. So that's where you do your maximums and minimums. So remember, you go menu, analyze, between here and here is negative 0.667, like negative 2/3 with negative 1.19. And for the maximums, you go between here and here, which is negative 2.08. Wait, let me do that one more time, because I think on the maximum it went on its own before I wanted it to. There and there. Yeah, it actually wanted the negative 2, 0 instead of this this one automatically clicked. So ignore this negative 2.08, it's the negative 2.0. So those are your turning points. So that's your minimum and maximum. Any questions on those? Okay. Oh, sure.
What's your favorite What's your favorite rapper?
We're doing this. Okay. Then number 6, we graph by hand. So it wanted a graph on the calculator as well as graphing by hand. So I did the graphing by hand right there. Number 7, the domain is all reals and the range is all reals because there are no limitations. There's no asymptotes. There's no jumps. No discontinuities.
It's a big word.
Yeah. Yeah, for real. And now, as far as the increasing and decreasing, remember these always relate to x. And increasing is this section, which is from negative infinity to negative 2. It's also this section, which is from negative 0.667 to infinity. So those are the x values. And then for the decreasing, it's just between there, and so it's from negative 2 to negative 0.667. Remember, increasing and decreasing relate to x values. I think on one yesterday, we graphed it on the calculator and it was pointing down, and somebody was wondering why we put positive infinity instead of negative in third period. And it's because we care about the x values, not the y values. The x value is positive infinity on the right. Yeah, the x.
Can you answer that question? You don't like rap?
No, not at all. There is going to be 74, so we've got one more.
What about gospel music?
What about Christian rap? What's correct?
Okay, so there's the end of 70. Any questions about this? Oh, by the way, that little U in between means or also. It's this part and this part, and I guess I put or. So this part or that part. When you get into set notation, this one means and this one means or. In this case, it's or. So it's increasing here or there. Okay, last one. So 74, same idea as far as do all 8 steps. The first thing we do on this one is we put in -1/2. You can either put it as a fraction or as a decimal. I personally prefer a decimal just because it's easier to manage on parentheses. So we have -0.5 x plus 4 x minus 1 to the third. So that's going to be your graph. So something happened up here. You can either double click up here to change your window and just guess, like I'm guessing 30, but that wasn't high enough. Or you could do zoom fit. So right now I'm going to do zoom fit. And that looked like that. It's a little interesting. Okay, so what we want for our end behavior is the first thing we look at is our coefficient, which is -0.5. So that's got to be part of your answer. And we forget about or ignore the horizontal shifts, like the left 4 part and the right 1 part. So what we want is -0.5 times x to the 4th. So now I'm going to graph that. Bless you. Okay, -0.5 x to the 4th. Okay, which has a red graph. And so you can see they're pretty close. Okay, so that's the end behavior. As far as the x-intercept, it happens where each of those are equal to 0, so at -4 and 1. The ordered pairs are -4, 0, and 1, 0. For the y-intercept, I use the table, and it's 0, 2. As far as the zeros, it's based on the x-intercepts. So the first one we have is -4, and the multiplicity is 1, which means it crosses because the exponent was 1. And at 1, the multiplicity was 3, which also crosses. So both of those are odd multiplicity. Number 4, I just graphed on the calculator. You don't have to put your max and min if you don't want to. I just use zoom fit, this time. Number 5 is your turning points. So for that, I go to maximum. between. First thing, it's asking about which graph because there are two. So to avoid any confusion, I'm going to get rid of this end function graph. So I got rid of the red one just to make it a little easier. And now you go to Analyze Graph and then go to Maximum. And between here and here gives me my maximum. And it's negative 2.75, comma 33. Negative 2.75, comma 33. And there was no minimum on this one.
Can you tell us just the numbers?
Yeah, sure. To number 2?
No, just.
Oh, just to number 3. Okay, all right. So then there's the sketch by hand. Okay, when I use these numbers from earlier, 50 and negative 20, it does look exactly like that. But when we did zoom fit, it was just down. When it was zoom fit, it was more like just this. So just be aware of that because this was just from negative 20 to 50. The other one, when I did zoom fit, was quite different. So that's why graphs can sometimes look different. This is basically negative 5,600 to positive 550. So it's quite different, like I keep saying. Okay. As far as your domain, it's all real numbers. The range goes up to 33. So 33 is the height. So that means this should have been 33 right there. Okay. So anything below 33. So we have negative infinity, comma 33. And then as far as your increasing and decreasing, it's increasing or going up to where the x value is negative 2.75 because that's what our turning point x value was, and it's decreasing on the other side. So that's basically the end of that. And your Math Excel is due Monday, and you have a class work on Tuesday. Any questions? Okay.